Tuning is really, to me, about car culture. It's individualizing a car that comes out vanilla.
I like it because it's just individuality, and I think the more flavors and colors we have out there of cars and niche car cultures, the cooler the car world is. I remember, a bunch of videos that kind of came out with the Stella Artois build specifically. I've never seen it before, and it was just like putting me right into the passenger seat, into this world of wild Porsches and racing. It was fresh and new, kind of came on the scene and just disrupted the entire tuning scene.
RWB stands for RAUH-Welt BEGRIFF, and it means rough world. And the translation, RAUH-Welt BEGRIFF, is actually the German translation of rough world.
And it started out as a race shop where people would prepare their cars for racing events around Japan. Basically a group of track rats, guys that kind of come together, that live and breathe the track. If something breaks, they like zip tie panels back on. It was very rough world.
RWB really is about one person, and that's Nakai-san.
Nakai-san is a god of wide bodies, pure artwork. That's all he cares about, all his artwork.
What Nakai-san is doing with RWBs is next level stuff.
He is a builder of these wide body Porsches. When you first see them, you're taken aback by it, and they're just beautiful creations. And Nakai is the person who comes in and builds these Porsches individually. They're bespoke vehicles tailored exactly for each owner who decides to build them.
I can think of a lot of other brands out there, and there's a lot of really cool brands that have built really nice cars, but nothing that's really attached to, say, one person that is out there hand building these vehicles into something very unique. Will these work?
No.
No?
Even too big.
Too big? Okay, you need those small, flat ones, right?
Something like this.
Oh, got it.
Oh yeah, I tried.
This is undocumented stuff. So I don't know how someone, I can't imagine someone trying to do this on their own. I asked Nakai-san whether any of this was documented, and he said, documented, and he pointed in his head, yeah.
In the automotive industry, there have been a history of a lot of great builders. He is one of the greats, if not the greatest, in terms of what he's known for.
Flies around all across the world to build these things, and from what I understand, I think the lineup's like 140 people on the list for getting their builds done, so he's a busy guy.
それはね、数えたことないんだけど、結構、どんなわかんないな。数えたことない。とにかく別にそういうこだわりは全くなくてね。一つ一つを自分のために作ってる感じでやってるからな。
I bet if I traveled anywhere in the world and I said, hey, I'm traveling in Spain, I'd find an RWB owner and he'd open up his house, cook me dinner, offer me a room to stay in just because I own an RWB. It's fascinating.
Another really interesting aspect about Nakai-san is he's like essentially a nomad. Like the guy travels with a silver case with an RWB sticker and he's all over the world. He's just like a traveling Porsche builder. It's really interesting.
そうだね。今世界中旅させてまたねもらえてるんだけどね。旅して、そうね。これがもう普通の生活リズムになってるんでね。世界中のみんな家族みたいな友達ね、いろいろいるんでね。どこ行っても楽しいし、いつもハッピーですね。
There's just some sort of a swagger with him and how he does things. Everything from how he handles his tools, how he holds his cigarette, how he sits in a chair. It's really only Nakai-san can do that.
He actually started off doing drift cars and having a drift team.
僕の86は、陶芸仕様で8年間ぐらいずっとこ
こんな感じでやってます。
そうね、一番最初だから好きな車っていうか、一番最初乗った車がまあ86、AE86 だったので、AE86 っていう車に最初から乗ってて、まあそれ、まあ本当若い頃、18歳ぐらいの時から車は好きで、そういうのを乗ってました。
He progressed and he found he was working on a Porsche, and he loved it so much that he decided to just keep on building different Porsches.
So what's really special about Porsche is obviously the history and the DNA where the brand comes from. With the first 911 in 1967 all the way up to now, it's the same model car that's just been evolved. Despite that evolution, what wasn't lost in Porsche is the feel, the emotions that makes you feel while you're driving. And that's what people are always kind of chasing, is that amazing feeling of driving a Porsche.
There's certainly some like OGs out there, like Nakai-san and like the whole Japanese tuning culture. It's always been fascinating. It's very heavily influenced, of course, by media. There's a lot of people who are really into like cartoons. Like I said, as I was growing up in Japan, everybody watched Initial D.
You've got to be kidding me.
And that's where perhaps, you know, the whole drifting culture came out with. The very first Fast and Furious was kind of like the milestone date. It was when tuning culture was exposed to a wider audience. The whole modification scene, whole tuning scene just kind of exploded, and people were just customizing just about anything. Having the opportunity to travel across Canada with Driven and seeing how tuning culture is different in Halifax. People perhaps may not have you know, the latest and newest and expensive parts, but you'll find a lot of unique vehicles. You start heading west, you get to Toronto, and it's just everything. Heavily influenced by the US. And then you go further west and it's just to the extremes, right? Brand new Lamborghinis, Ferraris with $80,000, $100,000, $200,000 body kits being put on their vehicles. Every scene has its good and bad. What Nakai-san is doing with RWBs is next level stuff.
A lot of like tuning culture in Canada follows a lot of things in Japan. In Japan, there's also a lot of different subcultures within tuning. Every country is different in terms of how they revere tuning.
To a purist, Porsche is already perfect, of course. To someone who wants to really make a statement, the RWB absolutely does it.
That doesn't take away for the performance and the handling. That's the key. Because some of the brands, they make the look, but you lose the balance of the car. RWB is different.
I think as any RWB potential owner goes, they always want to build a one-of-one. And absolutely, every RWB is a one-of-one. What makes this build really unique is it's almost the next phase for Nakai-san. This is Nakai-san's first kit for a water-cooled Porsche. It just so happens that we're running a show in Regina, which is 2 hours away from Saskatchewan. With this build happening the same week leading into the show, we'll get a chance to debut it in front of the audience at Driven Regina. Oh, easy. Very easy. And then this.
Yeah.
Is there a spot? Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then down like this.
Yeah.
Push. And
It fits really nice, actually.
Yeah.
It's actually very easy. 2 and 8 o'clock. I'm gonna go up, follow the body line straight up. Nakai-san has put this little prop, which kind of holds it up like your hood, and there it is. That's how I gas up now.
Prior to COVID, his normal turnaround time was about 2 to 3 cars in the span of a week. So it was not uncommon to hear that he would be in North America, then jump over to maybe Spain, somewhere in Europe, then go back to Japan for a quick break, and then travel again, right? So 2018, I know he was building about 2 to 3 cars a week, but there are definitely cars right now that are about 3 years behind just due to COVID.
自分で考えて、本当に自分が乗って初めて作るような形なんで、乗ってない車を作るのはあんまりちょっとね、時間がかなりかかると。
He actually starts with the body kit and he builds the body kits by hand in Japan. So when he's first designing the body kits, He looks at it, he's not using a computer, he's not drawing anything out. It's all very tactile. He goes all about it and he builds the mold for the body kit.
Right from receiving the kit, trying to determine the wheel offsets, and not really knowing if when he arrives everything was in place, we were all nervous. Obviously, some sleepless nights.
Everything is prepared for him before he arrives, but he actually goes in there and takes the saw and he saws off the fenders. You know, he installs the kit. He even runs beads of, caulking to make sure that everything fits right.
And that's what makes this unique. He does everything himself. He's not a figurehead who's directing a team of individuals to modify a car. And I've had the greatest bodymen, the most experienced people watch and try to replicate, and they can't do it. There's just something about him and how he does things that is very unique.
I think Nakai-san himself is a balance of science and abstract. He's very hands-on is what he is. He trusts his feeling, he trusts his hands. Even when he caulks something, you see how he does it, and it's almost masterful. It's beautiful actually to watch him do it, and that's just what people are drawn to, is that he does what he does, and he's great at it.
What makes Nakai-san even, I guess, a little more almost mysterious is that he's a very quiet individual. He doesn't say much, so when he says something, you listen. 20 centimeter spacer, or 20 millimeter spacer is gonna be perfect. The front 10? Front 10? Yeah. 20 okay, Nakai-san? 20 is okay, right?
No, like this, go looks check.
Is this the cigarette measure?
Or like, yeah, 15 better, 15.
15?
Like this, right? 15, go back.
Okay.
Come like this.
That was such a Nakai-san moment, measuring with his cigarette. So we always prep the builds with a really cool chair. It's usually a high back wing chair, leather, something that's really just as outstanding as the cars that he's building. We try to get him a really cool chair.
リラックスしたいわけであって、車を見ながらね、車好きは。昔はやっぱまだこう世界が始まる前はリラックスしてステラを飲みながら車を眺めながら次は何やろうとか考えたりね、インスピレーションを働かせたりしてね、やっぱ何でも大事だよね。椅子もチェアも大事だし、テーブル大事、空間も大事だし、音楽も大事だし、そこで自分の趣味とする車があることでまたインスピレーションがね、自分に来るわけで、とにかくその環境、自分に対する環境づくりはすごく大事としてこういうチェアを選んでるのかもしれない。
Nakai-san also enjoys to smoke cigarettes. It's something that I think we've seen for the last decade in all the build footage. It's definitely part of, I think, his process. I mean, what artist doesn't have his little quirk?
The very first time I see Nakai-san build something, you get the sense that he's not doing it for attention, not doing it for fame of it, or even really as a business. He is an artist. That is hard to debate. Some people obviously don't like what he's doing. You watch him work, it is no different than an artist focused and dedicated to whatever the craft is. In this case, it's a 911 Porsche.
We got to the car and it was sitting low to the ground due to the air suspension, and we could not get the power to it to raise the suspension up so that we could actually move it out of the build site, to even just get it clean, to get a photo shoot, to even attempt to even make any kind of a drive. So today we have a problem here. We gotta get the air right up, but it's not actuating. So in order to drive it and to get back onto schedule, we have to lift it up, but it's not actuating, and we have a problem.
Okay, so is there power hooked up to this?
It could be a line, right? It could be hardware, right? It could be hardware related right now, or it could be power related. And you know, the person who installed it is going to know it best. So we're just going to have to wait for Terrence to get here for the air ride suspension. We didn't know if this is something major or it was something minor. We thought it could be the whole air suspension failing. Turned out to be very minor in that the installer had actually put the actuator and the switch in a different spot than what we normally would accept it to be at. And so when the mechanic came, he was able to show us what needed to be done. Because there has been a lot of adversity in terms of building the car, a lot of tight deadlines need to be met. This car was turned around in about 6 weeks. Usually a build, you're planning almost a year ahead of schedule, right? We knew it would work out, but it was just like, what is this little fire that we have to put out today? Okay, that's great. Now we can get it washed up and get back on schedule. Thank you.
Car shows like Driven are important to Canadian culture, I think, because Canadian car culture only lasts 6 months out of the year. So we need car shows like Driven in order to keep the stoke alive, right? To keep ourselves interested about cars or trends or new plans for mods and tuning for the following year. It's imperative to have shows like Driven in Canada.
Having Nakai-san debut the 997 at Driven Regina was just amazing. He made so many fans happy, and I'm just over the moon of how the car looks.
I had a conversation with Nakai-san about 2018, 2019, and I said, how long are you going to be doing this? He said to me literally, till I can no longer do it until I die. So I can see him going as long as he physically can handle the rigors of it. All he truly cares about is the Porsche, is building the car. That's all he truly cares about, and I can see him just continually building this. He's going to be leaving behind a legacy when he's gone, and all that's going to be remaining are all these masterpieces of artwork of all these RWB Porsches.
Retire? No. そうね、よくみんなよく聞かれる質問なんだけど、いつリタイアする？別にリタイアすることは今も大事にしてるからね、リタイアは考えてないんでね。とにかく今を生きるため、今をね大事にしてるんで、毎日を。リタイアっていうのはリタイア来る日が決まったらリタイア。それは死ぬ時かもしれないし、できなくなる時かもしれないし、できる限り続けていきたいなとは思ってます。はい。
I think it just inspired a lot more people to get into tuning Porsche and how, maybe RWB isn't as accessible, but just tuning and doing whatever you want, whether it's punk or whether it's purist, is okay. I think that's what happened with RWB, and that's the impact it made. It creates so many dreamers, so many younger kids kids nowadays are not interested in automotive whatsoever. So that's what's cool about RWB, is that it's like kind of this influence into the younger generation to be excited about cars again and motoring and going fast and having a pink car with big wheels. It's cool.
そうね、やっぱりそれはなんていうのかな、これ僕でしかできないと思ってるんだけど、人に見せながら車を作るわけで、非常にレアなことをやらせてもらってるわけで、そこでやっぱりみんな楽しみにしてくれてるし、人が集まることはいいことだと思ってるし、ここは別に一 否定することもなく、やっぱ見てもらえることにも感謝しながら、自分がどんどんスキルアップできるんで、すごいみんながハッピーなことは自分にとってもハッピーなんで、いいことだと思ってるし、むしろありがたいことなんだよね。
There is no one that can follow up Nakai-san. There's people who can do some really cool stuff, and maybe even on the skill level, but there's just something about that brand of Nakai-san, which unfortunately will just disappear when he's done.
I think just like any other tuners that came and gone in the previous decades, it's just another stepping stone in the progression of like automotive culture. And I think he's definitely made a huge mark on it because it's brought in a lot of a younger audience, a lot of younger interest into the scene. And I think that's important, and that's a really cool legacy.
Holy Jesus. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's, wow, speechless.